Hello friends. So I'm coming to you today with a little mindful moment, practicing some mindfulness together. And my subject of the day is distraction. So we all face this, the challenge to pay attention, to focus, to concentrate, because there's a lot of things going on and we tend to have what we call a monkey mind, meaning there's a lot of chatter, monkeys like going crazy if you visit the zoo and you see how they're all talking to each other. It's just an expression to kind of show you an example of what could go on in your mind. And it is hard then, or a challenge that we have to practice coming back to what we are actually doing to focus on it and pay attention. So I'm going to give you an example, and it might be a little different now in the way things are because we haven't been to school in a while. Maybe we haven't been to work in our office for a while. So there's other things at home that are distractions that maybe wouldn't be if we were in our normal routine, right? But let's imagine that you are working on a project and you have to research for this project. So you go to library at school, or you go to the library for your job, or maybe to a bookstore, right? And you are there to gather information about the moon. You're writing a report about the moon, doing a presentation about the moon, and you get to the computer at the library, or you get to the book section, and you're on the computer, starting to look, and you're gathering information about the gibbous moon, waxing, waning, crescents, and then something else catches your eye. So if you're on a computer, or maybe you see an ad for something, or there's about a concert that's coming up, or a movie that's coming out, and you're like, oh, that looks really interesting. I'm gonna check that out real quick. And you start to kind of veer from what your focus is. Or maybe you're in the bookstore and you look up and you notice something that's a little more interesting to you, and you walk over there and just decide, I'm just gonna pick up this book, and before you know it, your teacher has said, okay, library time's over. Or you've looked and said, oh my gosh, I gotta go to my next appointment, or I have to leave now and pick up my kids. Whatever it is, and you have lost that time that was intended for a specific purpose because our mind can get distracted. So practicing being aware of when this is happening is a mindful practice in and of itself, right? So there's some ways that we can strengthen our mind muscle that maybe isn't just sitting to meditate. While I am totally in favor of meditation and think it's wonderful, sometimes our meditation comes in different forms. And that could be paying attention to when we start to think about what we're gonna say next. If you're in a conversation with someone and they're talking, there's two ways to be involved. You can be mindfully listening, or you can be preparing what you're gonna say next. And then having that awareness of, oh, I'm not really paying attention. I'm thinking about when it's my turn to talk is a way to practice mindfulness. Maybe noticing when someone's called your name and you haven't been paying attention. This example happened to me yesterday. My family and I were taking the dog for a walk, and there were some city workers who were making some repairs, and they had asked if the dog could have a treat, and I was so lost in what I was doing that I didn't even hear them talking to me. And I had to apologize and say, I'm sorry, my mind was completely somewhere else. Yes, that would be wonderful. I'm sure she would really enjoy having a treat. That's so kind of you that you have them on hand for people walking their dogs, right? So it was a lesson for myself too, to come back to this moment. I was lost in thought and my list of things I was gonna do once I returned home. We can do this when we're out and about, maybe not as much right now, but when we are in a crowd, noticing maybe when we bump into somebody, noticing, our surroundings too, things that we pass by every day, but may not really come into our focus or attention. So the other thing that can help with this is having some time for brain breaks. So when you're doing an activity that's requiring you to have a lot of focus and attention and concentrate for a long period of time, maybe for those of us who are still e-learning at home and there's a lot of time that you're focused on your screen, this would be a good break for your brain to have a refreshment, to refocus and recharge. Same with working from home. If we're doing a lot of computer work, or we're doing a lot of Zoom time, or we're doing a lot of on the phone where there's a lot of input happening, these are a good way to connect the right and left sides of the brain to help us just feel a little more centered and in control. So we're gonna do, I think there's maybe 3 3 or 4 of them. And this first one might seem a little silly, but it's kind of fun. And if you have anyone else at home that wants to practice this with you or join you, again, it's a good way to challenge both sides and cross that midline so that we're working the right and left side of the brain. So it looks like this. You're gonna wink with the left side and snap with the right. And then switch. Wink with the right, snap with the left. Ooh. One more time. Okay. So again, simple enough to wink. Winking can be actually challenging, or snap, and that can also be, the side's not doing so well for me today. But you have to think about doing them together, but opposite sides, okay? This next one is similar. We're gonna do this 20 times, and then we're gonna do a different motion 20 times. So we're gonna take our arms out in front of us, and we're gonna cross them over each other. So that's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can breathe. 17, think. 19, 20. Good. Then we're gonna take our arms like this, a bend in the elbows. So you can do this seated or you can stand up. If you're standing, you're crossing the opposite elbow to the opposite knee. Same with sitting. If you don't have space for that, you can still do it like this. And we're gonna do 10 of these. Ready? Keep going. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. So that's another way to work on that motion. The last one is a little bit more challenging in my opinion. We're gonna start with our right hand and you're gonna make a figure 8 in the air. Okay, so you're gonna make 10 of these with the right hand. That'd be 1. You can count on your own. I think I'm at 5 now. Good. And then once you have 10, we're gonna do the opposite side. Ooh, this one's a little bit more challenging. You usually have a dominant side. Good. Now, we're gonna try to do it with both sides. So, like I said, this is a little bit more challenging. So maybe you wanna make them in the same direction or opposite directions so that we are still getting that motion of that figure 8. And this is just exercising your brain, right? We practice being healthy and eating healthy foods, feeding ourselves good fuel, but we also need to practice not just strengthening our muscles, but our brain muscle. And doing that and taking just that few moments, this hasn't been a long time, right? We can use 2, 3, 5 minutes, depending on what we have, to do those few things. And as you do that, you're gonna start to notice a difference. Your mind might feel a little more clear, but be less of that chatter, that monkey mind craziness, being pulled in a lot of directions, and you're taking that time for the greater good. So using it to come back to whatever project you're working on and be more focused and productive. So don't think of it as losing out time, that you're pausing and doing these activities. Think about it as gaining that time because you're going to be more focused and you're gonna have less distractions, and you may even finish your project sooner when we give it our full attention. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today for a little mindful moment out of your day. I appreciate your time and attention, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste, friends.